Ichigo awakens by Talacha in chapter 57. Parasite's End. Hansa stormed into the facility, prying off the ruined saga and heading to the smithy where the Bakoto were forged and developed. Joining were three of his most powerful and trusted allies in the assassination unit: Genja, a scarred mountain of man with yellow armor and an eye patch over his left eye; Jinai, a small and lean man with pink skin, spaced out square teeth, and mauled on top of his head with what hair he does have being blonde; and Rizukuzu, a lean man with a black mask covered his nose and mouth, pink armor on his torso over his black bodysuit, a pink scarf over his neck, and a reverse straight pompadour over his brown hair. What is it, Master Komoi? Hansa angrily demanded, scaring some of the craftsmen working on the Bakoto. Lady Ruchio took over as the clan head and has been keeping him busy. One of the blacksmiths responded, only to be thrown out of the way by the assassin as he headed for the most recent of experimental weapons. Master Hansa, stop! Another smith cried out. Nukui ignored them. Those weapons haven't been tested. They could consume you in an instant. Shut up! Hansa yelled as the three allies followed him, each one heading for a different experimental blade. I have never failed in an assassination, and I refuse to let this be the first. I'll kill them, all of them. All of Squad 15 will die by my hand, he shouted, grabbing the latest version of Sega and letting the living flesh of the Bakoto dig into his arm and permanently fusing with the blade. You think he's lost it? Ryu asked his allies. These Soul Reapers have proven strong if they keep beating him, Genja answered. At this point, it's a matter of pride. If this turns out to be a suicide mission, then why are we here? Jinai asked, entertained in a challenge, but not if he would die without any real reason. He gave us meaning in our lives, Genja reminded him. We had nothing and he helped us, gave us purpose and direction. We owe him our lives. He went over to the larger Gundai blade and merged with it. I'm honoring that. The other two nodded and picked up the new blades. Jinai with a large one-handed scythe blade with a chain attachment that latched onto his torso, and Ryu with a straight sword that attached itself up onto his elbow. Now, my brothers, let's go, Hansa said, readying for what might be his final assault. Squad 14 barracks. Amaiji, Kibune, Love called out to his squad and third seat. Ganju already by his side. Ganju heard some interesting news. The Shiba man stepped forward and kept his face impassive, despite the anger he felt towards the traitors. One of my sources recently informed me of an illegal weapons deal going on in one of the old abandoned training grounds, and in one of the seedier allies of the Serete. Kibune seemed excited at the idea of a challenge, while Amaji seemed more focused on doing his task. The captain has made it clear that he wants these weapons disposed of as soon as possible for the safety of the citizens of society. Now, Ganju will lead Kibune to scout the alleyways while Amaji and myself will check the old training grounds. Sir, if I may, Kibune started gaining the visor's attention. What are these illegal weapons? Abominations called Bakoto, Love answered, making the two stiffen ever so slightly. You have your orders. Move out. World of the living. Hiyori was eating chips and watching the monitors, keeping track of everything important in Karakura town: the hospital, the parks, the area around the base, the homes of the main officers, Karakura High School, all with scanners to pick up Hollows, Fullbringers, Quincy, and most recently Bakoto. Eventually, the Bakoto sensors started going off with several pings coming up. Then more all over the city. Idly, Hiri ate another potato chip and started tapping away, and leaned back again without any sense of urgency. Should I make popcorn? She asked aloud to no one as a large battalion of Kusumoji assassins appeared. Nah, it'll be over soon. She sent a message warning of the attack and got ready to watch the battle. Fullbringer's Giryoko, the elderly Fullbringer, was enjoying some late night tea, a pastime he was finally able to enjoy again now that things had settled down with the Fullbringers. Not for the squad, but he did some more experiments with his powers and found himself able to take his leisure so long as he was smart. He made his precautions so he was not concerned with the dozens of assassins closing in around him. I'd advise against any violence or talking, he suddenly said before the first assassin could attack him. Also, don't stray too far away from me, 100 meters to be precise. Several of them ignored the warning and tried to cut Giriko to bits, getting consumed by the flames of time as a result. I did warn you, he answered as the assassin watched in shock of their allies dying so easily. I have set up multiple contracts that keep you here and me safe. One, so long as I show no aggression, I cannot be harmed by an outside force for half an hour. Two, so long as I speak honestly with you, you cannot speak for 45 minutes. Three, so long as I stay put, you are all trapped in this 100-meter radius around me for half an hour. Four, as long as others are aware of these contracts, every new person is subjugated to them as long as they enter my range. He paused to take a drink while the assassins fidgeted, trusting that they were now stuck. Though all of that will make little difference, since five, those are all clearly identified. Those that are clearly identified as my enemies will be consumed by the flame of time after 5 minutes. Karakura Hospital. Ryukin took in a drag of a cigarette, letting the burning tobacco calm him down from his latest surgery. His workload lightened up after Masaki and Kane woke up, and Masaki did some help in training their young Quincy, as he didn't have to worry about that. However, a lightened workload didn't mean anything in his chosen profession. Got any easier. Humans still prove themselves as very fragile, and he was just done dealing with one particularly risky surgery, a girl that was born with a weak heart valve, resulting in a very fragile body. He was going to keep an eye on her progress, but for now, he needed to relax. A group of assassins appeared behind him and were immediately shot down with a barrage of arrows. Thank you, Kanae, the Quincy master said in extinguishing his cigarette as his wife came to him, carrying a bucket of ice with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. I'm in no mood for these weaklings. You've had a rough day, she responded with a quick kiss on the cheek. Time to relax. With the Kurosaki girls, Yuzu, Karen, and Masaki were heading home from some late night grocery shopping. Ichigo was able to come home a lot because Ishin was doing his son's work on top of his own, and Ishin hasn't been able to spend nearly as much time with his family as he used to. They made it easier by coming to visit him every so often and have the occasional family dinner at a family restaurant. Today being reserved for a home-cooked family meal, everything was going alright, despite sensing the massive influx of disturbed Reiatsu, putting their faith in Ishin's squad. They ignored the issue and went about their day. How about we have udon tonight? Masaki suggested, earning a cheer of approval from her daughters. Want me to help, Mom? Yuzu asked, always ready to help in the kitchen. Masaki beamed at her children. Of course, you. She stopped when a group of assassins got too close for her liking. She disappeared in a burst of speed, leaving Karin to catch the bag before it fell, and quickly crushed the would-be attackers. Barely 3 seconds after she first moved, she returned to her original position. Of course you can, Yuzu. And Karin noticed a small change in her movement that showed she exerted herself. You okay, Mom? She asked, earning a tired sigh from the Quincy. I'm still rusty, it seems, she said just as the 5 attackers slammed onto the road behind them. Fullbringer, Jackie. The Fullbringer was covered in mud, sludge, and blood as she partook in the fighting. Taking advice from Ichigo and Sato about her over-reliance on speed and power led her to pick up a proper fighting style. She chose capoeira and spent all of her spare time learning the style, doing her damnedest to be able to keep the flow as she increased the speed and power. She swerved and flipped around the attacks of the assassins, all of whom basically replaced their attacks with swords as they all wielded Bakoto, and used the force of her spinning and flips to smash her reinforced dirty boots against her opponents. She broke bones and snapped blades, which made her enemies pour the reishi into the Bakoto and consume their arms and torso. As they continued to converge on the Fullbringer, she watched as the flesh of the Bakoto spread on their enemies and got a sense to get out of there. Clean boots, she whispered, all of the gunk and mess on her just falling off. Her ultimate defense, born of the happy memories she had with her boots before they were stained in her family's blood. So long as she focused on those memories, then her boots remained clean and herself untouchable. Her white remnant Fullbringer now shining with a clean brilliance as she walked through the assassins. Those still conscious as they attacked her were more and more consumed by their Bakotos, catching a flame and absorbed by the abominations. Within seconds, she was surrounded by corpses and a hostless parasites. This is disgusting, she said, trying to hold her food down. Lisa versus Jinya. Now, let's see. The co-third seat of the squad said, double-checking the statistics of their current situation. She's currently sitting out of the barracks, strategizing when the attack came. The Kusumaji assassins outnumber us by about 1.5 of our current number, many of whom are losing pretty quickly to our soldiers with the Fulminger assistance. She checked off some points on her tablet designed by Hiyori to be most advanced, Hiyori to be the most advanced soul tracker, second only to her computer system. There are 4 major Bakoto wielders. It's Captain Ishin's family time. Lieutenant Ichigo and Orihime are still in society, so that leaves Uryu, Sato, and Tatsuki as our usual top fighters. But that's 3. Well, what do we have here? Jinai asked loudly, revealing their presence. An officer of this squad 15, I presume. He brandished his Bakoto scythe, making the chain rattle to instill fear into his opponent. Except Lisa wasn't paying attention. Maybe I could get Ichigo to do that thing I've been wanting to try if I actually fought. It has been a while. She was muttering to herself before Jinai swung his scythe blade at her. Once it got within range, she deftly lifted her blade and blocked the attack with ease. Pulling his Bakoto back, Lisa gently pulled her tablet down, taking note of several of her squad members' Reishi signature getting weaker by the second and some flecks of wetness on her cheeks. As she wiped her cheek and found blood on her fingers. Maybe you assassins with your Bakoto are actually a concern. She began to unsheath her blade. How about I crush you here for your mistreatment of my comrades? Don't look down on me, Soul Reaper, the imp-like man cried out before bringing the spine of his Bakoto blade to his mouth and biting off a cheek, chewing quickly and devouring the metal. The second he swallowed, a dark malevolent energy pulsed from his body. Blades erupted from his body, straight swords from his back, and curved sickles from his forearm and shins. Witness my Reietsu and tremble at your impotence. Jinya shook with excitement with the power coursing through him. Hansa told him that the Bakoto were powerful and they became so much stronger in recent times, and he didn't expect this. It was intoxicating. He craved it, needed it, but first he needed to defeat the Shinigami before him. Lisa glared at her opponent and immediately had to dodge as he sent a flurry of blades to tear her apart. They were faster than she anticipated as she successfully avoided the blades, but her clothes were torn and she had numerous light scratches. I think it's time someone showed you real strength. She slammed the hilt of her blade and mouth of her scabbard together. Smash! Haguro Tonbo! She spun her Zanpakuto as it extended and grew into her long pole-armed spade. Before Jinya could remark on the massive weapon, Lisa slammed the ball end of her weapon into his gut and angled it so that he'd be sent skyward. He managed to right himself and land on the roof of a tall building, and with Lisa calmly walking towards him on the air. Damn, Soul Reaper! Jinai cursed, and he ate another part of his Bakoto, causing more blades to erupt from his body and turn his skin into metal scales. He fired another storm of blades at Lisa, prompting her to spin her spear and swing it like a fan. The air pressure deflected all of the blades, making them fly past her harmlessly, and she threw her spear towards the imp of a man. Jinai leapt to the side, avoiding the blade only to encounter Lisa's foot as she kicked him in the face. After tumbling for a few feet, he roared in pain and anger and began eating more and more of his Bakoto. His teeth became sharp like teeth, his skin became metal, and every part of his body had a blade. So this is Bakoto, Lisa thought as the fleshy attachment on Jinai's stomach dug into his body. They must be destroyed. She summoned her mask and opted to end the fight. Jinai spun towards her like a serrated tornado as Lisa retrieved her Zanpakuto. Just when he got into range, she swung her spade blade like an axe and cleaving Jinai in two from the waist. She watched the two pieces of the dead assassin in horror as the tendrils of the Bakoto reattached the two halves and turned the Jinai's body into Reishi before absorbing its former master. Incredible power at the cost of your life and sanity. A sad death for a sad creature, she said before dropping down to the cursed weapon. She saw the thing look at her and attempt to move before she crushed it with her spear. Disgusting abomination. With Ganju. The third and fourth seats of the Rukon squad made their way through the empty alleyways of the Serete. Even with the influx of new recruits, the main city of the Soul Society was far from crowded, as most of the graduates went to either the Rukon squad or the lives of the Living World squad, which were in constant need of new recruits. Makoto took point while Ganju stayed in the back as he managed to guide them to a dead end. "We've been searching for hours," the bespectacled man said, feeling annoyed at the probable wild goose chase. "Are you sure our targets will be here?" "Yeah, he's here," Ganju said slowly and silently, unsheathing his blade. He failed to hide the intent in his voice as Makoto's posture changed, showing that he caught on. "Makoto Kibunai, you've been found guilty of wielding the illegal weapon Bakoto. You're under arrest." The traitor turned and gave an arrogant smile to the Rukon noble. "And they saw fit to send you?" he asked as he unsheathed his blade. "I'm actually insulted, but I suppose it's fitting. A noble of the Shiba clan, yet you are a pathetic dog compared to me. I never liked you." He got into his fighting stance as Gunju returned the scowl. "Same here. I thought you were scum the moment I saw my eyes on you." Tatsuki versus Ryukuzu. She danced through the many assassins that came after her in the park. They were quick, but training with Yorichi and Squad 2 gave her plenty of experience on fighting assassins. She didn't want to waste her strength on small fry, but she was also hesitant because of what her Sabakto spirit said. Fire and heat hasn't hurt her since she gained her powers, but she was burning in her inner world. She knew she couldn't beat these guys with ease, but she was still hesitant when fighting people trying to kill her. She was still out of the league, but she knew she should be beating them a lot faster than she was. "So violent," a voice called out before a heavy mist swept in, "and so strong. You must be one of the officers of the squad, are you not?" A fog surrounded her and grew thicker by the second, absorbing her vision greatly. I'm Ryu Kuzu. Just to let you know, the name of the man that kills you." "Where is he?" Tatsuki thought, wordly scanning all around her. For her opponent, she saw a silhouette. She saw a silhouette in the mist and was about to charge when a dozen others revealed themselves. She got herself ready to fight, but her heart was racing. She thought back to her inner world and the suffocating flames to when the Fataron car was trying to kill her. To her Sabakto calling out her weakness. She's fought with allies to her back, fought people trying to capture her. She was still not ready for people trying to kill her. A blade quickly cut her back as she was slow to react to the sudden attack. "Why didn't you just give up?" the assassin taunted as dozens of blades appeared, connected to the mist. "This battle was over the moment you were trapped in my Shirikari Mugen Kairio." The blade danced around her, striking at random and forcing her on the defense. She pulled out her blade to attack. She couldn't evade, but despite her best efforts, it was a battle of attrition. She felt like she would lose. "Damn it, Tatsuki!" she thought in her anger, being on the defensive. "You're better than this. You know that." She avoided a lethal cut, gaining a nasty gash on her arm. "Focus. What would Yorichi do? What would Ichigo do?" She wondered before something clicked. Something her Sabakto asked her. What should I do?" Suddenly, she was no longer in that mist and that storm of flame, in that storm of blades. She was back in that burning field, staring straight at the flaming bird. That was her Sabakto spirit. "Do my flames mean destruction?" she asked calmly, watching as her wielder stood up proud and unflinching in the inferno. They protect the people I care about and burn my enemies," she answered, stern and confident. "What are you in your group?" "Ichigo is our leader, Chad is our strength, Uryu is our long-range fighter, Orihime is our support. And me," she started, the fires building up around her. She returned to her present situation as the blades grew closer. "I'm our heavy hitter." Her body began to glow brighter and brighter as she channeled her reishi into her limbs. "Shunko!" she yelled as she exploded, a massive ball of fire expanding from her center and consuming everything around her. The mist quickly faded and Ryukuzu was left defenseless as his concentration broke and was consumed by the burning wave. The raging flames died down, and she was left in a smoldering field of embers. She soon collapsed onto the ground, panting heavily from exhaustion, and held up her blade to look at the spirit steel. "Looks like I need to work on that. Shunko thing a little more. What do you think, Hidori?" She felt the blade vibrate in approval as she passed out with a smile on her face. Kuzu was barely hanging on to life, dragging himself towards the unconscious Tatsuki with the intent to kill her. His mission of vengeance ended when a blade removed his head. Get some rest, Tatsuki, Lisa said. Finding the assassin and recovering the fifth seal. Ganju versus Kibune. The fight was not going well for the Shiba man, and Kibune improved his skill by being faster and stronger than Ganju, especially with what seemed to be a psychokinetic control of his Sanpakuto Rippuko. The most Genju could do was block and dodge, and his strength was wearing. He figured being in a more confined space would give him an advantage and limit the flying ability of the glaive, but he was more agile than he thought, and Kibune was kicking his ass. Literally, not just using his Sanpakuto, but a variety of kicks kept Kanju from mounting a proper defense. He kept moving and drawing circles on the ground and walls. So, out of curiosity, Ganju started when Makoto turned his reppu to his side. What's the end game here? What's the ulterior goal? Kibune smirked arrogantly as lime green reishi flared out around him. Same thing I've always wanted. Power, he said before sending reppu spinning towards Ganju again. I've strived to become the most powerful Soul Reaper at the academy, the top of every class, excel at every subject, but no one understood my worth. I was always passed up for squads by those so much weaker than myself. The spinning blade crippled Ganju's side as he tried to grasp the handle. When I did finally join a squad, I excelled once again. I killed more hollows than anyone, no matter what got in my way. I was never stripped of being a Soul Reaper, but I never gained the recognition I deserved for my power. His Rippu returned to his hand. When I was part of the expedition unit, I found the Kusumoji and attained the power of the Bokuto. He revealed his left hand, already one with the parasite weapon. I'm guessing that the reason you Sanpakuto flies. Ganju asked, glaring at the fisheye on the weird thing attached on his hand as the flesh tendrils climbed further up his arms. I guess you weren't completely stupid, Makoto said, readying his weapon for another strike, but you are pathetic, just like that weakling brother of yours. Numerous small explosions went off on Reppu, covering him with sticky mochi and playing havoc with his ear. Ganju didn't even smile as he invoked his strategy. My brother gave his life in a fight of honor, dying only because no one expected such an altered hollow that could possess and disarm Soul Reapers. Ganju said calmly as his Reiotsu grew stronger and stronger. Anyone could tell why you never became an officer until the Gotai got desperate. Kibune poured his Reishu into his Bokoto and pried himself free of the trap. And you just stomped on those ideals of a true Shinigami Makoto. I won't forgive you for that. He slammed the hilt of his blade on the ground and cried out, Renka Seppa Sen. The dozens of sand pits and coals formed on the ground, on walls everywhere. Ganju drew his spell. Irada Ashusheka. Chad versus Genya. The giant of a man was sitting on a bench amidst a field of broken Bakoto and dead bodies, hunched over in prayer. After seeing so many consumed by the Bakoto, he thought he'd be able to free some by removing the parasite. He never knew how tight the grip on their hosts were, and the few he freed soon bled out from the missing limbs. He's familiar with the idea of giving one's life to a goal, promising to help his friends, but he never saw such an intense a pointless sacrifice. The Kusumaji assassins should have learned that this was a losing fight long ago. Why are they throwing their lives away now? His latest opponent, one of the last two major enemies, made his presence known. Thank you for giving me the time to give you due to the dead, Chad said as he stood up to face the man, slightly bigger than he was with a broader stature. Though I must ask, why you're all throwing your lives away like this? You must know you're losing. Most of the assassins unit believed that the Kume would be better as the clan head. Genya stated, wanting to show his resolve to prompt his new opponent to take the fight seriously. Others want to present as rogues as the Kasumoji won't be completely ruined after this comes crumbling down. For Hansa, he's never failed a mission, and it's a matter of pride now for him. Even if it means his death, he'll try to kill someone close to Ichigo Kurosaki or any members of the squad. My brothers and I were random thugs that he gave purpose to, but personally, he brandished the guando attached to his arm. I want to have power, and to test that power, Hansa gave me that, so I'll fight for him. Chad kept his eyes on the man as he pushed himself to his feet. I won't pretend to understand your friend, but I do understand you. He activated both arms of his Fullbringer and got ready himself. But that doesn't mean that you'll win or that you have a chance here. Chad shot forward with his Fullbringer light, while Genya stabbed into the ground. All around the two of them shot up green energy, turning into stone walls and branching off to form a crude labyrinth. It didn't slow down Sato as he delivered a proud sidekick into Genya chest and sent him flying. He broke through a couple walls before becoming embedded in one and sinking into it. Figures they've upgraded. You hit harder than I expected. Genya said, Genya's voice echoed from all around him. And you're right, Mr. Kakuyoko. Mr. Kakuyoko is improved to allow me to create my walls. However, I wish so long as they are stable, he said as more energy surrounded Sato, attempting to trap him in a strong prison. Also, he shot out from behind Chad. I merged with my walls. He stabbed at the Fullbringer's back, but he twisted just enough to only have a large tear on his shirt. That was the attack he saw coming. Another blade was coming straight for his head. He barely avoided decapitation and got a deep cut in his cheek. There was no time to breathe as more stabs came at him. He kept his shield arm at pace with the piercing strikes, trying to buy time until he could find the perfect chance to get his opponent out of those walls. Suddenly, Genji came at him with an overhead strike, which Chad blocked, but a smirk on the assassin's face altered him to a sinister plan. Coming at Sato was a spear of energy, too closer for him to throw off Genya and block. It was times like this that he was glad for his training. And brazos dablo giganta. He yelled out, turning his left arm into a shield, exactly like his right. He figured his right arm was to defend, while his left was to attack, but he knew that would only go so far. He pushed himself to be able to change sword and shield, even having both arms be sword or shield. With his new shield, he deflected the energy and broke free of the stone. Taking advantage on Genja's shock, he grabbed the blade and yanked him out of his walls. He then threw Genja through the walls and back out into the open. The impact knocked the wind out of him, and he was having trouble pulling himself back up. Even with the energy he was pouring into his Bakoto, he was able to get back up when a foot pinned him to the ground. He saw his opponent and tried one last swing, giving every last ounce of himself to Kakuyoko. Brazo y izquierda del diablo, Chad said, reverting his left arm back to his offensive power. Using it, he caught and shattered the blade of the Bakoto, leaving his opponent helpless. I know you'll never stop, so this is for your own sake. I'll make it quick. He grabbed Genja's face and charged his power again. La muerte, he whispered before destroying the assassin's head and leaving a skull crater. Chad rose to his feet to his full height again and offered a silent prayer for the soul of the recently dead. Ganju versus Kibune. The background changed from calm to chaotic. Kibune's flying Ripu and Ganju's Shusheka clashing for supremacy. The edge of the Bakoto wielder had was the last as Genju manipulated the sands around them to his will with the swing and wave of his blade. The former third seat sent his blade spinning towards Ganju, who blocked it with the sand wall. The sparks flying until it returned to Kibune. Most of his arm was engulfed by the Bakoto. They paused for a moment to catch his breath. Kibune panting heavily while Ganju was hunched over. For all your abilities, you're still no match for me, Kibune said mockingly. But since you seem to think to think no, since you seem to think you know why, what distinguishes me from a so-called actual Soul Reaper? Ganju actually chuckled, gasping for air while laughing. I said it was obvious, didn't I? The noble looked and the man glared at him. It's in the job description of a Shinigami, protecting innocent souls. You said it yourself that you were always interested in power for its own sake, never for helping anyone. A Soul Reaper fights for others, gains power to protect their allies, and is ready to give their life for those that can't defend themselves. He held up his blade, a gritty metallic bar slightly longer than his sealed cleaver. Asushika gives me the ability to manipulate sands to my will. Awesome ability with the cost of taxing my ratio heavenly. I use this power to help my allies. You just cut down anyone in your way. He yelled before stabbing towards Kibune, sending several streams of sand towards the traitor. He blocked to turn the sand and used his power control over his Ripu to bring him to the sky. And still so foolish, he yelled out high above Ganju and seemingly out of his range. Why tell me your ability with your power when I can counteract it? He readied his blades for the next strike. If that's a true Soul Reaper, then I'm glad to be in a different league. A conceited bastard to the very end, Ganju said before stabbing his blade downwards. At the same instant, Ripu's form exploded into a shifting mass of metal particles, stabbing into Kibune's chest. Losing control, he dropped to the ground like a rock as more of the metal sand spread inside of him. Grinding and polishing blades works by rubbing it against fine-grained sand, like whetstone or durable sandstone. What do you think happened every time my sand collided with your Rinpu? Kibune glared at Ganju as he coughed up blood. Tiny grains of your blood came off and under my control. Like I said, sand. He pointed Asushika to Kibune and made one more swing, perforating his chest with the remains of the metal sand in his being. Never mark my family, especially my brother. You want to be Soul Reaper? He turned and left the man to die of his wounds, ignoring his cries as the Bakoto devoured him. Uryu versus Hanzo. The Quincy kept a careful watch on every major conflict from his vantage point atop the safe house. He sensed how the assassins began dropping much more drastically as the stronger members of the squad defeated the main Bakoto wielders, leaving only one notable fighter left, the same assassin that faced off against the Captain Ishin, and he was coming straight for him. You took your sweet time, Uryu said condescendingly, unconcerned with his opponent. All of your allies are dropping like flies. He looked at Hansa and saw what the man became. The Bakoto was already wrapped around his upper body, leaving only his head and legs free of the tentacles, sweating and wincing as if he was in pain. And you want victory so badly, you're killing yourself for power. Hansa ignored him as he growled out a demand. Where is your captain? He yelled, glaring with lilac-colored energy. If this is my end, it'll be by his hand. Uryu calmly stood up and pulled out a Selle Schneider. Today is his time with his family, the Quincy answered as he activated his blade. Besides, you disappointed him too much in that last fight when you ran. Without any warning, Hansa attacked Uryu to no avail as the Quincy blocked that attack. And seeing as I'll likely become the next captain of the squad, I should be more than a match for you. He forced Hansa back and started gathering Reishi. Don't mock me! Hansa flashed his paralysis light, but Uryu circled behind him. He swung behind him, creating a wave of energy as he tried to cut the Quincy. At the same time as Uryu cut across his back, he cried out in pain as he felt the Sega start moving him according to his will. He willingly shattered the mirror on his blade and shot the shards towards Uryu while unleashing a massive blast of energy from the hole. He was hoping to distract the Quincy while using the ultimate power of the Sega, the nightmare illusion, to crush him with his worst terrorism. I believe you're done. He heard from above. He looked up to see his opponent with 5 arrows that he shot around him, each one a silver rod that harnessed Reishi, held in place around him with spear threads. He was about to move before an arrow destroyed the nucleus of his weapon, making the Bakoto wither away. He tried to move, but his legs were dead. He served my spinal cord, but with that flash, he thought in terror as energy from each one of the rods bound him in place. I normally wouldn't be opposed to dragging this out, giving you a good fight, Uryu said as he floated in front of Hansa next to one of his Schneider. But about 20 of my squad members are in need of major surgery and healing, and I'm only one of two qualified for those as the rest are medics of varying skills, and our best capsule and our best healer is currently in Soul Society. He took out a Ginta capsule and got ready to pour the liquid reishi onto the blade. So, take this as punishment for inconveniencing me and my father. Splenga. He let a drop fall before disappearing. The last of Hanzo was consumed in a massive explosion of light. Such a pain. The Quincy groaned as his gear returned to his hand, and he pulled out his phone. This is third seat Ishida. Gather what wounded you can and bring them to Karakura Hospital. We'll take care of the worst cases there. He finished the message to the squad before calling his father. Dad, we have critical injured Soul Reapers in need of surgery. Love versus Amagai. We're here, Love said. The captain and lieutenant made their way to an old training field where Love said their lead for the arms dealer was. Love suddenly stopped and turned to face his lieutenant. His features the most serious they've been in a long time. I'm not gonna bother being coy with you, Amagai. I know you have a buckato. Amagai eyes widened a bit before going stone-faced. And here I thought I kept up my ruse fairly well. He responded, feigning that he was unsheathing his blade and buckato when he was readying for the papers that he kept in his robes. You almost fooled me, but there was always something about you I didn't trust. Love continued before flashing in front of Amagai. Haru 33, it's Sakotsuyo. He cast his Kido spell and engulfed Amagai in the pale fire. The traitor appeared behind Love, covered in flame of burns that were most prominent where his papers were. If it wasn't for Squad 12 getting a Bakoto sample and making a tracker for them, you'd probably have gotten away with none the wiser. Amagai scoffed as he pulled out his Sambakuto and his tuning fork Bakoto blade. I gotta ask, why? What's your goal in all this? My goal is revenge, Amagai answered, ready to use the nullification power of his Bakoto against Genryusei Yamamoto for Shinyatsu Kisaragi's death. The name resonated with Love, but he wasn't sure where he remembered it from. He was a loyal member of the Gotai, served under Yamamoto, and his loyalty was repaid with his death. It was then Love remembered the name, the man that first investigated the Bakoto on behalf of Yamamoto. For his sake, to avenge my father, I will kill everyone involved with Bakoto. He yelled out. Yamamoto Kumai, the whole of the Kosami clan. I will not stop until they're dead. You think the old man is involved with the Kusumaji? Love asked with a raised eyebrow. With the Bakoto? The Kusumaji made many suspicions and questionable moves, but Yamamoto refused to do anything even after this so-called revolution the society is going through. And why else would he kill his subordinate? He asked, demanding answers from his captain. A small matter of adhering to the law that said he couldn't interfere with the affairs of nobility. For starters, the visor responded, he also didn't want to become a tyrant. Thought his patience is reaching its limit with the nobility. As for why your father died, I doubt you believed me, so it'd be best to bring you to the old man in person, he said while unsheathing his blade. But you've been a naughty little bastard, disrupting the peace like this. So with your little vengeance mission, you need a little time out. Slam Tinguma. Before he could finish, Amagai tapped his tuning blade against the hilt of his Sanpakuto, and Love paused. What was that? Mambakoto is Kumai's masterpiece, able to cancel out other Sanpakutos in the area. Amagai answered with a confident smirk. Except for mine. Sever Reka! He called out, turning his Sanpakuto into a long white blade, topped with a hook and a few shell-like pipes for his hilt. I have nothing against you, Captain Love. Honestly, I respect you, but you don't stand a chance against me now, so stand. You said you only cancelled my Sanpakuto, right? Love asked, earning a nod from Amagai. The next instant, he was slung so hard across the face that he thought his neck was going to snap and send spiraling through the air. Too bad for you. There's no defense against the fist of love, he yelled out, shamelessly quoting one of his favorite manga. Amagai bounced and rolled on the ground until he finally stopped himself, his vision already hazy from the punch. Let me school you on a few things, my guy, the visor said, flashing in front of my guy and pulling him up by his throat. 1. Bankai doesn't automatically make you a captain, as only an idiot would deem that as enough. You should train to avoid using Bankai because strong becomes strong without relying on it. 2nd, just because you cancelled my Sanpakto doesn't mean you cancelled my fists, he yelled before slamming his fist into Amagai's gut, sending him flying again. Once he managed to get up, he shook himself clear and focused on his fight. Ban, he readied himself to use his final release when Love's sword turned into a giant kanabo club with spikes instead of studs. He thought they were out of range of his bakoto, so he chimed the blade again. With no result, suddenly Love was right in front of him. And 3, I'm a visored boy, he said just before bringing the club down on the man. Yamamoto's office. The head captain was reading over the damning evidence and reports from Tsukushima, already aware of the suicide mission against Squad 15. Ichigo and Orihime were alerted, but Ichigo stated that he wasn't worried, and the squad was ready for most anything practical for Soul Society. He was reading the report to determine who to send into the Kusumagi's ground and clean house. His musing was cut short when Love entered the room, dragging in unconscious and beaten Amagai, who was bound tight with a Kido spell. With zero tact, Love grabbed Yamamoto's cup of tea and splashed it in Amagai's face. Wake up, he yelled, smacking the traitor's lieutenant across the face. Then Love realized what he did. Head captain, I can explain. Quiet, he said firmly and looked at Amagi, who was glaring at him. I assume there's a reason for this. Since it was the end, Amagi figured he had nothing to lose and spoke his mind. This whole Kasumaji conspiracy is my doing, he admitted. I promised Kumai a place at the top of the nobility if he played along. Give me Bakoto and stir up enough trouble among the Gotai to act unnoticed. Also, I could kill you and the Kusumaji for the creation of the Bakoto and the man you murdered, my father, Shinetsu Kisaragi. He finished with a growl, waiting for a reaction from the man he knew was responsible for his father's death. Yamamoto said nothing as he stood up and went to a pile of files under the list of KIA. He pulled out one folder and tossed it in front of Amagai. Your knowledge seems to be lacking, boy, he said before freeing Amagai of his restraints. I admit to killing your father, but you are mistaken if you thought it was out of malicious intent. Should you read that, you will know why I killed your father, but it will bring you pain, he warned before sitting back down, hate coursing through Amagai's veins, demanding that he try to kill Yamamoto, but he had no weapons, and curiosity demanded that he look through that file. So he took a deep breath and opened the file, proving Yamamoto correct. No abilities, clean boots, Jackie's untouchable defense, Brazos dobles, Chad's ability to change his arms between attack and defense, Asushika, earth mover, Ganjo Shikai that allows him to control fine grain, earth, and metal. The form of the blade is like a whetstone sword. Ichigo's harem, Orihime, Tatsuki, Rukia, Rangiku, Senna, Nelial, Halibel, Babita, and Candice. Rangiku is the least developed relationship, I admit, but there's been very little chance in canon and filler for that relationship to develop. Maybe more will come in the Sanpakto Rebellion arc. Riruka was dropped because I actually forgot about the Fullbringer half the time, as I really only needed Ginjo and Tsukishima. The rest are tag-alongs. Most of them are kind of bland anyway, so I don't feel like anything is really lost. End of chapter 57.